Germany, 1984. An ordinary man suddenly jumped to his feet. Then, with a trembling voice, he said, "Something terrible is about to happen." The people around him treated it like a joke. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he was anxious again. That was all they thought. But he was not smiling. His face was pale. His lips were dry. His fingertips were shaking. His eyes were even stranger. He looked like a man who had just solved a puzzle in his mind, like someone who had finally understood something, and at the same time, like someone who wished he never had. He grabbed a piece of paper and wrote one word, YOGTZE, just 6 letters. But that word would haunt people for decades. A few hours later, the man was found badly injured on a lonely roadside. He was almost naked. His car was strangely damaged, and just before he died, he said one final sentence. 4 men were with me, but those 4 men were never found. Even now, people still wonder. YOGTZE. What did that word mean? And perhaps someone who knows the truth may still be alive today. A small town in northwestern Germany. A man named Günther Stoll lived there. He seemed completely ordinary. He had a family. He lived a quiet life. No scandals, no violence, nothing unusual. To most people, he seemed like a normal man. But before the incident, those close to him noticed changes. He became nervous. He said someone was watching him. He said someone wanted to harm him. He said one day, something terrible would happen to him. At first, people dismissed it. Maybe stress, maybe work problems, maybe money worries, maybe he was simply exhausted. But over time, his fear became harder to ignore. He often stared out the window. If an unfamiliar car passed the house, he would freeze and watch it disappear. If the phone rang, his face changed before he answered. Even the sound of footsteps outside the door made him tense. Some say there were days he believed someone was standing outside. He already seemed hunted. The problem was this: was the danger real? Or was it only growing inside his own mind? No one knew. Then came the day of the incident. He was more restless than ever. He spoke less. He checked the clock again and again. He looked like a man waiting for something, like someone who knew something would happen before night was over. The night of October 25th, 1984. Günther was at home with his wife. It was a quiet evening. Food was on the table. The radio played soft music and familiar voices. Everything looked normal, but Günther was different. He barely spoke. He looked lost in thought. Sometimes he stared into empty space. Sometimes he tapped the table as if calculating something in his mind. Even when his wife spoke to him, his answers came slowly. He seemed to hear her, but his mind was somewhere else. Then suddenly he jumped to his feet. His eyes widened, and he shouted, "Now I understand!" His wife was startled. "Understand what? What do you mean?" she asked again. But he did not answer. Instead, he looked around quickly. He grabbed paper and a pen. With a shaking hand, he wrote one word, YOGTZE, a strange combination of letters, not a common German word, not a normal phrase, not a name anyone recognized. Then, in the very next moment, he collapsed beside the chair. He had fainted. His wife rushed to him. She called his name. She shook him. Moments later, he regained consciousness. His breathing was heavy. His face was even paler than before. She asked why he collapsed. He could not explain it. She showed him the note. She asked what it meant. But instead of answering, he only stared at the crumpled paper, and his expression grew darker. He looked like a man who had learned something terrible, like someone who wished he had never understood at all. Even after regaining consciousness, Günther did not calm down. He closed his eyes for a moment. trying to steady his breathing. But soon he stood again and began pacing through the house. He walked through the living room. He moved to the window, then back again. He pulled the curtain aside and looked outside. He seemed like a man watching for someone. His wife tried to calm him. "Stay home tonight. Please rest. Tell me what is happening." But he gave no clear answer, only short breaths. Then suddenly he grabbed his coat. He looked at her and said, "I will be back soon." He did not say where he was going. He did not say who he would meet. He did not say what he planned to do. He got into his car and disappeared into the dark road. It did not look like a man going out for air. It looked like a man who needed to confirm something, or a man who believed he had run out of time. But he did not drive straight to the place where he would be found. Instead, he stopped at a tavern he often visited. The lights were still on. Regular customers were inside. He entered and ordered a beer. People there later remembered him clearly. He looked deeply unsettled. He was seated, but not relaxed. His back was stiff. His eyes never stayed still. He looked toward the door, then the window, then the faces around him. He looked like a man waiting for someone, or fearing someone would arrive. The beer was placed before him, but he only stared at it. His hand moved toward the glass, then stopped. He never took a sip. A moment later, he collapsed to the floor. The chair fell backward. The room erupted in confusion. People rushed to him. Someone called his name. Someone shouted for help. Someone brought water. After a short time, he regained consciousness again. Then people noticed something else. His face was covered in blood. There was blood around his nose and mouth. Marks could be seen across his face. No one knew exactly how it happened. Some thought he struck the floor. Others believed something was already wrong before he entered. But the strangest part was his reaction. Witnesses later said he looked like a man who felt no pain. He was bleeding, but he did not complain. He did not check his wounds. He did not seem frightened. His attention was fixed on something else entirely, as if something far worse was happening inside his mind. People urged him to stay. They asked if he needed a doctor. They told him not to leave, but he ignored them. Without explanation, he rushed out of the tavern. His steps were unsteady, but he did not stop. Like a man being chased, like a man who had to reach somewhere before someone else did. Hours later, he was found on a lonely roadside. Early morning, October 26, 1984. On a remote road in Germany, a badly damaged car was discovered. The area was dark. There were few houses nearby. If an accident happened there, help would not come quickly. The vehicle had heavy damage. It had clearly suffered a violent impact. Inside the car was Günther Stoll, but the scene made no sense. He was not in the driver's seat. He was sitting in the passenger seat. In most accidents, the driver is found behind the wheel, even if the body shifts after impact. This position was highly unusual. What disturbed investigators most was how natural it looked. He did not look thrown there. He looked placed there. He did not look like the driver. He looked like a passenger, as if someone else had been driving the car, as if another person had been inside with him. Then there was something even stranger. He was naked, not partially undressed, completely naked. His shirt was gone, his pants were gone, his shoes were gone, even his socks were missing. A naked man in the passenger seat, inside a wrecked car, on a cold roadside before dawn. It was a scene that did not fit a normal accident. Why would he remove his own clothes? Why was he in the passenger seat? Did someone move him there after the crash? Did someone remove his clothes to destroy evidence? Or had something happened somewhere else before the car was found? The damage to the vehicle raised more questions. Did he lose control alone? Did another vehicle strike him? Did someone force him off the road? Did someone alter the scene afterward? Investigators could not reach a clear conclusion. The most shocking part came next. He was still alive, gravely injured, but conscious. And before dying, he spoke words that changed everything. As police and rescuers approached, Günther Stoll struggled to speak. He was dying, but he forced out one final statement. 4 men were with me. Those words stunned everyone present. 4 men. That meant he had not been alone. Someone else had been there. Perhaps several people. Who were they? Friends, strangers, men who offered him a ride, men he had gone to meet, or the very people he believed were after him. Then came an even darker question. Why did they leave him there? If he was still alive, they could have called for help. They could have waited for police. They could have tried to save him. But no one stayed. No one reported the crash. No one identified themselves. And there is one detail that makes this statement even more chilling. The first people to notice the scene were 2 truck drivers. They later said they saw a man in a white jacket moving near the crash site. Who was he? A random passerby? A witness who panicked? Or one of the 4 men Günther described? If that witness was connected, then someone truly was there, which means Günther's final words may have been true. And if one man was seen, where were the other 3? Why did the man in white disappear before police arrived? Why did he not help the injured man? Why did he leave no name? Investigators questioned people close to Günther, family, friends, recent contacts, anyone who might know where he had gone that night. But the 4 men were never identified. No names, no faces, no explanation. Only a dying sentence. And then Günther Stoll was gone. After the case became public, attention turned to the note, YOGTZE, the final word Günther Stoll wrote before he died. 6 strange letters, yet those letters have trapped people in speculation for decades. Why did he write that word? Why not a name? Why not a place? Why not a warning? Why only that? And why did he collapse immediately after writing it? To this day, many theories remain. The first theory says it was a location code or part of a license plate. In Germany, vehicle plates often begin with letters tied to specific cities or districts. Some believe YOGTZE pointed to a place, a town he needed to reach, a location he had already visited, a place connected to the people he feared. Others believe it was part of a car plate, perhaps the last thing he remembered from a vehicle following him, or the car of someone who had taken him somewhere that night. But no exact match was ever confirmed. No city code, no clear license plate. So the theory remains possible, but unproven. The second theory says it was a name or the code name of a group. Before the incident, Günther repeatedly said someone was after him. If that fear was real, YOGTZE may have been the identity of the person behind it, a surname, a nickname, an internal alias, the name of an organization, a label only certain people understood. If true, he may have tried to expose them with his final written clue. But investigators found no person or group clearly linked to that word. So again, the theory survives, but nothing proves it. The third theory says it was a technical code or chemical reference. This theory gained attention because of Günther Stoll's profession. He had worked in food engineering and technical fields. That means he may have been familiar with process numbers, material codes, machine labels, factory shorthand, and internal technical markings. Some believe YOGTZE was never meant to be a word at all. It may have been a code he recognized instantly, a production code, a chemical identifier, a component marking, a notation from work, something meaningless to others but clear to him. This theory becomes more interesting because of what he shouted first. Now I understand. Those words suggest that separate pieces of information suddenly connected in his mind. Perhaps a code he knew from work became linked to a real threat. Perhaps something ordinary suddenly became terrifying. And, in that moment, he wrote it down. The fourth theory says the letters were read incorrectly. What we call YOGTZE today may not be what he actually wrote. He was in distress. His hand was shaking. His mental state was unstable. The writing may have been rushed and unclear. Some suggest it may have been YOGTZE, YO6TZE, YQGTZE, or something entirely different. If that is true, then people may have spent decades trying to solve the wrong word. That possibility is unsettling, because if the clue itself was misread, the entire mystery may have drifted in the wrong direction from the start. The fifth theory says it came from the radio. That night, Gunther had been listening to the radio. Then suddenly he stood up and shouted, "Now I understand." That timing matters. What did he hear? What did he realize? At the time, Europe used many call signs for stations, regions, and broadcasters. To ordinary listeners, such letters could sound meaningless. To someone paying attention, they might signal something specific. Some believe YOGTZE was a call sign he heard. Others think it was part of a coded message. There is no proof. But because the radio was playing just before everything changed, this theory remains alive. The sixth theory says it was his final warning. For many people, this is the most haunting explanation. He wanted to leave a name, or a place, or the truth he had just discovered. But he had no time. He was terrified. His body was failing. His thoughts were collapsing. So instead of a full sentence, he left only one fragment, YOGTZE, a compressed message, a final signal, a desperate attempt to leave something behind. Some believe those 6 letters contained a person, a location, a plan, a threat, or the answer to everything. To them, it was not a word. It was a dying request for help. The seventh theory says it meant nothing at all, that he was in severe mental distress, that fear and paranoia had pushed him into confusion, that the letters were random, that there was no hidden meaning. This is the simplest explanation, and in some ways, the most realistic one. But many people reject it, because before writing the letters, he shouted, "Now I understand." Those are not the words of a man saying nothing. They sound like the words of a man who suddenly saw the truth. Then he wrote the letters. Then he collapsed. The sequence feels too deliberate, too dramatic, too specific. And that is why people continue to doubt the simple explanation. In the end, YOGTZE became more than a word. It became the mystery itself. And even now, people still ask the same question. That night, what exactly did Gunther Stoll understand? Police investigated the case, but no final conclusion was ever reached. So several possibilities remain. The first says it was a self-caused accident, that Gunther, overwhelmed by fear and mental instability, crashed the car himself. It sounds reasonable, but many questions remain. Why was he in the passenger seat? Why was he naked? Why did he mention 4 men? Too many details resist a simple accident. The second possibility says he was involved with dangerous people, a conflict, a deal gone wrong, a secret he should not have known. His repeated fear, the possibility that others were present, and the witness who saw a man in a white jacket all give this theory strength. But there is no direct proof. Still, if some arrangement collapsed that night, then what happened may not have been an accident. It may have been disposal. The third possibility says he discovered something. Many consider this the most chilling theory. That night, the pieces came together. Now I understand. Then he wrote one word, YOGTZE. Hours later, he was found dying. Too many moments connect in a straight line. His realization may have led directly to his death. It feels too precise to dismiss as coincidence. The fourth possibility says the scene was staged, that a real crash happened, but someone altered what followed. They moved him to the passenger seat. They removed his clothes. They created confusion. They made the truth harder to reconstruct. This theory explains some of the strangest details, but again, there is no proof left behind. That is why the case never truly ended, not simply because it was unsolved, but because no explanation fully fits. It looks like an accident, yet too many details do not belong. It looks like murder, yet no clear killer appears. It looks random, yet everything connects too neatly. So, people return to the case again and again, and they ask the same question. That night, what exactly did Günther Stoll discover? Germany, 1984. An ordinary man left behind one final word, YOGTZE. He also spoke of 4 men. But the meaning of the word, the identity of those men, and what happened that night remain unknown. And if those 4 men are still living ordinary lives somewhere, keeping their silence, then the truth may still be walking among us. And perhaps someone still knows what YOGTZE means, and has stayed silent ever since. If this story left you wondering, the next one is waiting for you. Subscribe and stay with us.